Hello, everybody. Welcome to Founders Mindset. In this podcast, we speak to founders of different fields to understand their mindset, what worked for them, what didn't work for them, and most importantly, how is their firm the next big firm that you need to look out for. In today's podcast, we have Kamala Naganand, who is the founder of AARNA Law. Let's see how did she grow her law firm, what all she did that you need to learn and look out for. Hi, Kamala.
Hi.
Thank you so much for coming here.
Thank you for having me here.
So recently, AARNA Law celebrated 10-year anniversary. So what is AARNA Law firstly, and how is it different from other law firms?
I think we're a law practice which believes in the values of doing things the right way, excellence, and providing quality service to our clients. So we started out as a disputes practice, but over the years, we've been able to garner the trust of our clients and have been able to build a brand of international repute. We have partner law firms around the world who we partner with, and we're able to provide services to our clients, though based out of India, but doing business around the world.
That's amazing. And you had another law firm as well before you started AARNA Law. So what were your experiences in Just Firm and as AARNA Law Entrepreneur?
So I think the first few years of a lawyer are just working and learning the ropes and understanding procedure and understanding how to deal with difficult clients, how to deal with good clients, how to make sure that you're able to problem solve. Right? I think so. When I started my practice in my grandfather's law firm, Sundar Swami Ramdas and Anand, the journey was really learning how to be a good lawyer. So I was not really involved in any aspect of the administration. Though I helped found Just Law, as soon as I did that, I took a break to have my 3 children. So even in Just Law, it was really the basics that I helped set up in terms of the name, the branding, the positioning, and then I had to take a break. So it was really at AARNA that I got my hands down and dirty, so to speak, as both an entrepreneur and a lawyer, and had to kind of use left brain, right brain, multiple skill sets of managing people, doing the work, keeping clients happy. And I think it's been a fabulous journey of a lot of learning.
So when you said about the administrative part of being a lawyer, so what are all the different things that you took up in AARNA Law?
Oh, at AARNA, I did everything. So I started off as the first day, it was just Shreyas and me. And so, right from the branding, the website, I was secretary, interior designer, HR, finance. I did every aspect. So I joke with my team today and say, listen, if each of you are not there, I'm easily able to run those roles independently. Correct. Because I've been there and done it. So I think it gave me a confidence to be able to learn and grow.
That's amazing. And you guys have this art law. So when I was looking at so many different law firms in India, very few of them cater to this particular sector, and you are very good at it. So what made you choose this art law into AARNA Law as one of the specializations that you cater to?
Actually, it was serendipity. So I was studying in the US. I did a master's in intellectual property from George Washington University. And one of the courses offered was art law. And I am very passionate about the arts and helping artists. And, I love going to museums. And I really see a lot of value in our cultural property, especially in India where it's not really given that much value. Right? So when I did that course, it opened my eyes out to the kind of work that I can do, especially here where there are a lot of now new museums coming up. The government is also trying to figure out how to protect all their works of art in the public domain, be it a temple sculpture, be it a sculpture in, around a park or outside in the open spaces that we have. And I think that was a journey that really took me to art law, because I realized my passion for art and my passion for the law can come together, and I can work with pretty much any artist, any museum, any government body working on cultural property.
And any interesting case that you have recently taken?
I mean, there are a lot of very interesting matters. I work with museums, so I help understand problems of the museum and solve it for them through documentation, through negotiation. I work with governments on repatriation of art around the world. I work with individual artists on identifying what their problems are and how we can, again, through documentation, planning, strategy, help them, especially in succession planning. Because a lot of artists have a beautiful body of work, but then they don't know that they have to create some kind of a legal framework to pass it on to the next generation. None of the artists think about what happens to all their works of art after them. And that's when, the family is not able to take care of the legacy. So I work with a lot of artists on protecting their legacy.
That's amazing. I mean, not many of us think about what happens to the work after it is done. We are just very happy that, okay, the work is done. Yeah. But you're right, like succession planning is such an important thing for artists, especially those which are like very famous and celebrated.
Actually, succession planning is important for everybody because you think about it. You spend your whole life on a journey, building a business or, collecting things or starting an organization. And then you never think about what happens after you. And that's when you realize that your whole body's work can be wiped out like this in a blink of an eyelid if you have not created a vision document for your organization to ensure that it outlives you.
Correct.
Right? I think as a lawyer and my training over the last 20 years has shown me that it's very important to help do that. And I think the minute you're able to bring value to the table to the promoter and make him understand, he's able to transform the business to make sure that it outlasts him and therefore is able to generate a lot more value out of it for his next generation. So I think that's what I see as my role, being a catalyst for abundance and enabling businesses to ensure that they're able to outlive and outlast promoters.
That's true. And you were saying that you have 3 kids and you had to do so many, like being a lawyer, it's not just about, handling the cases, but you might have to travel to so many different places, meet your clients, understand the requirements and so many things. So how did you manage with 3 kids?
I think I had a fantastic support system. I had people around me and I still have people around me who kind of support me in this journey. It's help at home, it's family, it's my colleagues. Biggest supporter is my husband, who's always been a cheerleader for me and who's always made sure to say, I'm also busy, you're also busy, let's take turns and, you don't have to give up anything, so to speak. And I think I'm very grateful to be born in South India because I think the men in South India are so open-minded, broad in their attitude towards, women. And I'm also very grateful to the family I'm born in and the family I'm married into. I think both the families we've had, my grandmother used to work, my mother-in-law used to work. And so it was not a choice at all. It was par for course. And I think that's really the legacy that I want to leave behind for my children, to say that you can do whatever you want, and keep your vision as wide and let the canvas be as large.
It's nice. So you've been a lawyer for almost 20 years right now. So what has been your biggest learning as a lawyer and as an entrepreneur?
Patience. I think patience. I think understanding different perspectives. I think very often we forget that we are really products of our circumstances, right, as people. And so your thought process, your ideas, really your upbringing plays a big role in it.
Correct.
And I think as a parent, that's become more and more aware, self-aware I've become because of looking at my children, like 3 children born in the same family, but such different ideas on, who they are and their personalities. And when I think about it, I think it's a lot to do with how you bring people up as a family, because I really don't believe that it's the mother and father only. It takes a village to bring up children, right? And I think the attitudes that you're able to kind of foster as adults is a large part of your growing up years and the influences in your life. So I think, who you are is really where you come from. And where you come from, it really ends up being that family that you're, rooted in. And therefore, I see that people who are not rooted, there's a huge variance in their confidence, in their ability to succeed and excel. as compared to people who are rooted in a place, in a family, in society. I think you can automatically see the confidence level, in both sets of groups. And I think I've become a people watcher thanks to being a lawyer, because you're able to see how people react to circumstances, right? So just as a doctor, we as lawyers are constantly discussing people's problems.
Correct.
And problem solving for them, so to speak. And so you're able to understand the psychology behind problem solving and the problem coming in the first place. Right? And that's been a really fascinating experience for me of learning from people.
That's nice. And also this can go in the other way around as well, right? Like there was this movie called Irugapatru. It's a Tamil movie, and it was about, counseling and how that counselor takes in whatever the clients say to her personal life, and she fears that, okay, these things shouldn't happen to me, so I'll be very, very cautious. So as a lawyer too, you do listen to so many different cases, right?
Yeah.
So do you also sometimes fear that, okay, I need to be very protective for it to not to happen in my family or to my kids or my people?
I think there are three things I've learned. To say one, karma plays a big role.
Okay.
Right? I'm a very religious person and spiritually inclined. And I see what a role having, again, a strong spiritual foundation has on people. Right? So that's one. Second, I think you always learn from other people, right? You take in the good and you leave the bad. And three, yes, as lawyers, we're always trained to look at extremes. Right? What if it goes very well? What if it also goes very bad? And so we're able to kind of problem solve from the perspective of worst case scenarios. Because best case scenario is a very small framework, right? But the worst case scenarios are what we have to build into and to resolve. So yeah, definitely I learn from every matter, and I learn how to be and also how not to be.
And this is a personal question, because you guys have to remember so many things, and you're a global brand, so you take on cases in Dubai, Singapore, and so many other places. So firstly, how do you upgrade yourself as a lawyer, and how do you remember all of the information? Like, is there something that they teach you with respect to memory in college?
I mean, if you really love what you do, I think the one thing about the law is, right, if you love it, you'll do very well in it. So it's a completely all-consuming, passionate career. And if you hate it, you hate it. So there's no two ways about it. And so if you love it so much, you will automatically want to read more, automatically upgrade, automatically want to learn. It's as simple as that.
And what about the global scenario? Is it the same as the Indian courts, or is there some difference over there?
And then every country has its legal framework on the basis of how justice is delivered. Right?
Correct.
Some are through the courts, some encourage mediation, some look at administrative law and things like that. So every country has its own real methodology. So what we really do is, when we work with, say, a foreign jurisdiction, we work with local lawyers. Because the local lawyers then have the know-how of the courts, of the systems, of the processes, and of course of the legal frameworks there. And so we kind of handhold them through the dispute, right, along with providing strategic input to our clients as and when needed.
Okay, so that's how you're able to, balance the global aspect of it and the Indian aspect of it. And
we are only trained as Indian lawyers.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
And we're allowed to only practice in India. But arbitration and mediation is the field of dispute resolution, where you can work in other jurisdictions, subject to it being there in your contract.
Okay.
Right? And of course, in each jurisdiction, we definitely reach out to local law firms. And therefore, we've built this global network over the last 10 years.
And memory is basically what you love. Your memory automatically expands to, take more information about it. Because it's really tough to remember so many numbers, so many cases, and, go through them and take on a particular case, right?
I mean, maybe from an external perspective, but because we're doing it day in and day out, it just becomes par for course. So there are some people, like one of my colleagues yesterday I was talking to after a very long time, and she remembered the case number.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, when you're handling it day in and day out, it's like saying a doctor has so many diseases to remember.
Correct.
Right? It's part of the training.
That's nice. And what are the challenges that you face as a lawyer day in and day out, and how do you handle them?
Right now, because I'm doing a lot of admin work, I think my biggest challenge is people.
Okay.
I'm trying to understand Gen Z. I'm trying to understand what it takes to, build
Hmm.
an organization,
Mhm.
to grow an organization. And so baby steps every day. I think every day is a learning journey.
That's nice. What about emotionally? Because 20 years being in this field, listening to so many different stories of people.
Yeah.
So, how does it take a toll on you, and what do you do about it?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Because as a lawyer in the beginning, I used to find it very frustrating because you're just sitting and listening to people's problems and then you're going and fighting for them.
Hmm.
So I thought it was very energy zapping,
Hmm.
exercise. And so over the years, I've built spiritual practices. I've built, practices that keep me mentally strong. I like going and exercising. I like being in nature. There are little things that you do to kind of ensure that you're rejuvenated on a daily basis.
That's nice. And so when we look at your website in AARNA Law, there are like 10 different sectors that you cater to. So when you initially start off, you want to take on everything. And then later on, you decide, okay, this is what is my specialization. This is the niche that I'm going to cater to. So when did you realize that, okay, these are the different things that I want to take on and no other thing I'm going to take on?
So, that was a very organic journey, Vandana.
Hmm.
We started out being a pure play disputes practice, which was, doing litigation in courts. My partner Shreyas then said he wanted to do more international work. And he said, listen, why is it that being based in India, we can't do international work? And so he, started doing slowly more arbitrations. He sat as arbitrator. And then he got this big break to work for the government to do two of its largest bilateral treaty disputes. And that really has been the crux of his practice for the last 10 years. But because we've been lawyers for over 4 generations in Bangalore, we've worked with a lot of promoters and business families. And so over a period of time, we've seen that there has been families whose first generation, second generation, and now third generation that we've been advising. Right? And we've really enjoyed this journey of working with them as serial entrepreneurs and helping them on their entrepreneurial journey. And that's really how our corporate advisory practice started. Then once I was finished setting up the firm, I said, listen, I want to go back to doing more IP. And so that's how, the IP practice birthed. And then as laws evolved, as things changed, right, different practice areas emerged. And now we're only going to start off on a new practice vertical unless we really have somebody to lead it. Because like you said, we can't be doing everything. And it is an area of specialists. And so when we find a specialist, like recently we just brought on board a partner. Manjushri has over 20 years of experience in banking. And so now she's going to head our banking and finance vertical. So like that, as and when I do find a good person to work with and who can come on board as a partner, we'll bring in that practice area.
That's amazing. And one more thing, as you were speaking, I just remembered ChatGPT and so many other tech that has come in. It gives you the answers so quickly, right? Like a lot of the contracts or basic things like rental agreement, people tend to look out to these things rather than coming to a lawyer and speaking to them, explaining to them all these things. So have you faced such kind of challenges with respect to the tech aspect, and how do you deal with it? Because it's very frustrating to firstly explain to them that, hey, this is an AI, you can't believe everything that it says. And secondly, you're going to charge a professional fee, right?
Yeah.
So many people might not be okay with that. So how do you take care of that?
Yeah, so recently there was a client who came and said, Madam, ee contract ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಟ್ಬಿಡಿ. And then he had pulled it off ChatGPT and gave it to me. And when I saw it, I was like, listen, this doesn't even cover your basic protections that I'd like to ensure that, your customers are aware of. And so we redid the whole thing and sent it to him. And then he was like, oh yeah. Then I said, listen, who did you get this from? He's like, Nane, madbitte, madam. I said, listen, this is not how it works. Will you go to a, heart surgeon and say, listen, come and fight my case? Or will you tell a lawyer to go and fight, do your surgery for you?
Correct.
You've got to understand the value that lawyers bring to the table.
Correct.
And while ChatGPT is great on certain things, it, like you said, can be really, really bad if you are not able to verify, check, and make sure that what it's saying is actually true.
And also, as a founder myself, when we did our legal contracts, so I didn't know a lot of things that was put into it. And later on, when you read through, you get to know, okay, we need to do this succession planning, or whatever information that is being put over there needs to be properly verified. So as lawyers, sometimes do you sit with the founders and explain to them that, okay, these are the things that you need to look out for, or this is what is required
Constantly.
for your particular firm or a particular sector for that matter?
Constantly. That is our role. So our role is trusted advisors.
Hmm.
And so people come to us when they have an idea to kind of, thrash it out and come out with a plan. People come to us post the idea. People come to us just as they're starting their business, halfway through their business, when they want to sell, exit, buy another company strategically. I mean, at every phase, we're constantly talking to the promoter to try to align legally with them.
And because why I asked you this is, whenever anybody wants to incorporate any firm, they go to the CAs,
Yeah,
right? And the CAs are the ones who give us the contract.
which is not really right.
Yeah. So after that, when we meet, say, lawyers, or I met you and I understood that, okay, this is something that a lawyer does, not a CA.
Yeah.
Because CAs are the ones who give us everything and we are fine with it unless and until there's an issue. Say, for example, two people start a business. Later on, they feel that, okay, this business is something that they don't want to do. There's no exit clauses.
Yeah.
There is no such thing as, okay, buyback, or nothing of it is mentioned in the contract. So that's when I realized that, okay, this is what a lawyer does, and it is so important to get a legal advisor while you're starting a company or doing anything for that matter.
See, I wouldn't even say only legal advisor. Get the best people that you need to advise you. So if you're starting out as a business, yes, you need a chartered accountant without a doubt, but you also need a lawyer.
Correct.
You also need a specialist in that area to kind of help you scale and grow the business. So I think every business has to realize that it needs to bring the best people who are able to help them in that role. I think that's the success of the Tatas and the Birlas. For me, I've been, wondering now to say what sets good businesses apart, what sets multi-generational business apart. It's the fact that they had the right people advising them at the right time. And the very important point that as promoters, you can't have yes people around you. You've got to have people who can say no, and you've got to accept their understanding of your business and sometimes listen to them. Because otherwise there's no point of having good people around you.
Correct. And as lawyers, sometimes work-life balance kind of becomes a little tough, especially if there is an important case going on. So you will be completely invested in the research, talking to clients, gathering evidences, and so many other things. So what is it that your firm does to handle this work-life balance for its lawyers? And what do you do as the promoter herself?
I think for us, we've set very clear boundaries to say, listen, the office shuts by 9 p.m. So 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. the office is open. Okay, choose your hours in that. Post which we are going to shut down. And unless you actually need to work, you need to take the permission of the partner you're working with to stay longer. So I feel like a lot of young people think that just by staying in the office, they're trying to prove a point. But I think a lot of people now are not like that. A lot of people now are aware that they want to take time off and do other things. Right? So I think setting clear boundaries is very, very important, for each person. And for me personally, that's what I do. I start working at 8 in the morning. I'm done by 5. I made it very clear that I take no appointments post 5. Because, my children are at home. I need to go back. And yes, work is part of my life, but it's not really my life.
Yeah.
I can't define myself by the boundaries of AARNA Law and the work that I do. There's so many other aspects to my life that I'd like to spend time exploring. And so I think the more I've created these clear boundaries, clients also know. Say, oh yeah, I can go early and meet Kamala, she's available. But 5 o'clock onwards, she's not available unless it's an SOS.
And also, when we met the other day, you were saying that, you have these concerts and a lot of things that you do in your organization for the team. So does music and all those things help your team members to calm and soothe themselves?
Oh, absolutely. I think, having pursuits outside the law really expand your horizons, give you that relaxation time, and give you that rejuvenation that you need to come back to work. I think gone are the days where people think that their work is their only definition of who they are. I think people are happy to go out and explore. The one thing that I'm amazed by is the amount of travel that people are now doing. I
Yeah.
think it's detrimental to the environment. It's detrimental to their mental health, because I feel like nobody wants to stay home anymore, right? Like this weekend, Friday was not a holiday. It was a day given to go and vote.
Yeah.
And look at our voter turnout in
Less
Karnataka.
than 50%.
Yeah. I mean, Central Bangalore, 48%, South Bangalore, 49%,
Yeah.
North Bangalore, 50%. I mean, come on, guys. This is your fundamental duty, okay?
Yeah.
And if you don't want to do it, then you can't complain, right? If you
True.
haven't voted, then don't complain. Simple as that.
Yeah.
But you can't say that, I'm going out on holiday for everything. They don't want to celebrate any festivals, right? Ganesha long weekend in Karnataka, people are out. Diwali long weekend, people are out. Like every long weekend, people are out. I don't know. I mean, for me, rejuvenation is being at home. I mean, each to their own, but I also think that, this exhaustion of travel is something that is real. So when are people resting? That's what I'm asking myself, because like one weekend of doing things, next weekend I'm like, listen, I'm staying home. I'm not stepping out on a Sunday.
That's true.
Yeah.
Right? You need some time in your comfort space. Doing nothing sometimes is good.
But people don't understand doing nothing anymore. Really?
It's actually, proven that it's very tough to do nothing. To just sit for 10 minutes and not do anything is very, very tough.
But you've got to train yourself.
And that rejuvenates you. It gives you better ideas and you're more creative if you're able to do that.
Yeah.
Not many people know this. They always want to do multitasking or do a lot of things just to feel productive.
Yeah.
The definition of productivity is only very different for people these days.
Yeah.
Like always constantly doing something makes them feel like, okay, I'm accomplishing that. But that's not the case.
But it's no wonder that people have mental breakthroughs, right? If you're overworking a machine is going to burn out.
Yeah.
So
and these days burnout happens when you're 30. Back then it was like, okay, we had this midlife crisis at 45 and stuff like that. But nowadays we have something called as quarter life crisis. So when you're 25, 26, you feel like, okay, what am I doing? I need to rethink every decision. I need to change my career. I need to take a break. So sabbatical and all was so later on, right? But nowadays it's coming very quickly. If you look at different firms, this is one major problem that they are, catering to. So does your firm have something like this?
Yeah. Constantly there are people who are so clueless. Like, I really am amazed. I'm amazed. That's all I have to say. I'm just amazed. There are some really interesting people I've met in the last 10 years, especially when you do these interviews, right? I mean, you're just amazed.
What was the most amazing thing that you've got?
No comment. No.
Okay, least amazing?
I think there is still hope.
Okay.
I think what I've seen in candidates that I've interviewed and people who've come on board is, when you have a very stable home environment, it tremendously helps the individual.
Correct.
Right? And when you have discipline, focus, and the parents are involved in the children's lives, I definitely see a transformation in that person. Compared to people who come from, difficult circumstances, difficult family lives, no roots, who've traveled all over. I think there is a huge difference in the mental health of people.
And it's like a ripple effect also, right? I mean, if one thing is not fine, like if you don't have a stable family to look up to, automatically you tend to seek that comfort in your work.
Yeah.
And you end up overworking sometimes, or with the colleagues that you have. And if the colleagues are not good to you, you tend to blame yourself, and that's when it affects the work.
Yeah.
And sometimes the employer doesn't even understand what is happening. They feel that this person is not doing well without trying to speak to them or understand. Many firms don't even have a HR, to kind of cater to all these things. They feel that, okay, it's not really that important, but it's also pivotal and important to have them to understand your people.
4 years into AARNA, we got a HR because we said, listen, this is really a people business, right? We are a services industry, and our people play a big role in AARNA and its success. And so we said, we need somebody to help us navigate this whole, understanding the dynamic between the people in the organization, the employees, the lawyers who are not employees and our clients.
Very important. So we all have watched Suits. I don't know, have you watched Suits?
No.
I wanted to ask you, like, does it, like, whatever they show and whatever it is in reality, is it little similar at least?
No.
Because they have like no work-life balance. They work at all times. And they have such interesting cases, and it just happens so quickly, everything.
So the law practice in the US is very different from the law practice in India. In terms of variety of cases, absolutely. You never know what's going to walk in next. Okay, so that is there. Long hours to a certain extent. Yeah, it is a lot of time, energy, effort that you spend with your colleagues in the office and the clients in the office. But the quickness of the proceedings, no. India and our judiciary is extremely slow.
Okay. What were your initial challenges when you first started AARNA Law? Like, I know you said that you did all the things, but other than that, did you have any other challenges in terms of getting clients or making your brand visible and known to people?
I think when we started, we had very realistic expectations, Vandana. To say it's going to be one matter at a time, one satisfied client at a time, and we're slowly going to build the practice up. And so for the first 3-4 years, it was just nose to the grindstone and do what it takes to, go. But having said that, it's been a fantastic journey of learning. I wouldn't change anything for it because I've learned so much from that journey. In terms of challenges, yes, starting up an organization is always full of challenges, right? You ask any startup founder today, and they'll be like, listen, we're bootstrapping, we're doing everything on our own. We're making sure that we have the tech and the people and everything. So I think it's just a journey. And I think very often people forget that it's the journey that's enjoyable, not the ultimate outcome. I think people are so outcome focused nowadays that they forget to enjoy the journey. But I think for me and Shreyas, it's been a lovely journey. I think it was every day when you enjoy coming to work, right? That's the environment we want to have.
And what's the vision for AARNA Law?
I think we're now in our growth phase where we're slowly going to bring in partners strategically. And then the world's our oyster. So let's see what next.
And do you cater to mostly in like Bangalore-based clients or clients all across India?
So our clients are a lot of Bangalore-based families, a lot of South Indian-based families, but any family business anywhere in India. Right? We like working with a lot of promoters, a lot of large companies. Focuses on foreign businesses coming to India, Indian businesses going global.
What about Gujarat?
Are you work?
Because that's where the next big thing is happening and a lot of companies will be coming.
Yeah, we're doing a lot of work in Gift City. We really see that the government there has a lot of interest in ensuring businesses come to Gujarat and set up there. And so I think the way businesses are growing, Bombay is really dying as a city in terms of, there's no innovation happening. But Gujarat is really pushing for innovation. I think it's when innovation happens that businesses are able to grow.
That's true.
I think Bombay has just become too expensive. And the only two businesses there are finance and real estate. So there's really
entertainment.
Entertainment. But apart from these three industries, I think the real innovation in terms of new businesses, new ideas, germination of them and converting into an actual new company is happening in Bangalore. The tech is all happening in Bangalore. But I think a lot of the trading businesses and finance is slowly thinking of moving to Gift City.
And what about entertainment law? Do you cater to that? Because somewhere they are also artists, right?
Yeah.
So you cater to that sector as well?
Yes, we've worked on contracts with producers.
Wow, that's
and
interesting.
Film stars, producers and directors. We've worked on various OTT platforms, buying content. We've worked on copyright matter, which is actually going on right now in the Bangalore High Court on screenplay copyright issue. So yeah, absolutely.
So even if you say artists, authors are not artists, but even for them, copyright and
so
ensuring
we worked on
that
contracts between authors and publishers. Yeah, but we're happy to work with any creative person.
I mean, that's so amazing. Like in so many different places, law is there, but people don't know firstly, or even if they know, they don't know who to go to.
Yeah.
Sometimes,
Yeah.
like you have a fantastic product with you, or you have an amazing idea. Sometimes you feel, okay, nobody's going to copy this idea, but if you don't copyright it or at least speak to somebody as to, okay, I want to pause this for the next couple of months. So how do I do that in a legal way so that nobody copies it?
Yeah.
Right. So fascinating. I know you said that you don't have any regrets, but if you had to restart as a lawyer in today's generation, what do you think are the challenges that a new lawyer faces, and what are the advantages that they have today?
You mean somebody who's starting a law firm, or you mean someone who's starting out as a lawyer, like a fresh
Both.
law
Like,
graduate?
you are a fresh law graduate, say you graduated in 23, and say you want to start a firm, maybe after gathering some experience. So, what are the advantages and what are the disadvantages today?
I think fresh law graduates have to realize that they need to have multiple skill sets, and they need to learn. Unless they do that, they're going to be ChatGPT is just going to take over, or AI and machine learning. They need to have build in the resilience and the skill sets that they need. I think they also need to have a lot more mental strength and resilience. I see that a lot of young people don't have the mental strength and resilience, especially in Tier 1 cities. I think Tier 2, Tier 3 cities, people have that, I want to succeed attitude. They are more hardworking and they're very, very focused. Because, life depends on it. But Tier 1 city children, I don't know. They just don't have that resilience to keep going. I think children need to understand and build that.
And you talked about patience, right? So nowadays, people don't have the patience to read. Everything they want it to be quick.
Yeah.
Right? Like either you watch a visual representation of it or audio. So do you think that will help lawyers or anybody who wants to start a law firm? Like sometimes the hard work is to, read, understand, talk to mentors. So it might sound a little traditional approach, but those are the things that really help in understanding the field a lot better.
Yeah.
So what would you give as an advice to these youngsters who are lawyers and who are starting?
I think, read. You've got to read, you've got to learn, you've got to keep updating, yourself. And not only about the law, you have to read about every aspect of what's happening in the world. Read a newspaper, read a magazine. Really, people have stopped reading newspapers. They get all their content from like Google or,
There's so many news apps these days.
Exactly, but the news app is hacking you.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
It's completely hacking you and giving you only things that it believes you should be reading.
Yeah.
So I don't believe they're getting both sides of the picture.
That's true.
Yeah. A lot of the content that we get today is extremely one-sided. So we've got to be able to go that extra mile and read to understand both aspects.
And that's very important for being a lawyer, right? I mean, you can't be one-sided. Otherwise, you might not be able to, win that particular case. You need to be very balanced in order to take up any case as a lawyer.
See, as lawyers, we're officers of the court. Our first duty is to make sure that we don't misrepresent before the court. Right? So we've got to make sure that we are balanced. And yes, we're putting our client's point across, but we can't be lying. And we definitely can't be putting something that's not happened
That's
across.
true.
Right?
And sometimes the information that matters a lot from where you get it from.
But you'll be amazed. There are a lot of people who do this and get caught by the judges in court and get nicely, yelled at.
It's very important. And these days, that is one of the major challenges that people face.
Yeah, I think an ethical component in one's education is very important.
That's true. Actually, very true. 4 more questions I have. Okay, so we spoke a lot about you as a lawyer, right? So how were you when you were growing up as a child? Did you always want to be a lawyer?
I never wanted to be a lawyer. I just hated the contentious aspect of all this negativity that people come and, kind of dump on you and expect you to solve a problem. But I think somewhere along the line, I realized the kind of positive change and impact that you can make. And I think that's where I said, okay, I want to do it.
That's amazing. And how was it like to grow up in your family?
Full of lawyers, all law conversations.
Oh!
Yeah, a fourth generation lawyer. So I've just, like, sometimes when I think about it, I'm laughing because basic concepts of law were learned while I was playing games and people in the family were talking, like my grandfather, father. They were like discussing various angles, aspects, and I already knew what that meant.
Oh, wow.
So when I went to law school, I was like, yeah, I know that. And then it was quite funny actually. But yeah, I mean, it's fabulous.
And do you always want to be an entrepreneur? Or was it something that happened
Yes.
organically?
I think I love working with entrepreneurs because it's fresh ideas. There's always a challenge. There's always a problem to solve. There's thinking out of the box. There's providing so much potential to so many people, right? Giving people jobs which really matter to people, right? Yesterday I met somebody and his wife has died. He has a 6-year-old child and a 12-year-old child, and he's looking for a job. I mean, imagine to be able to support such a person, right? I think as an entrepreneur, that's what you can do. Give back to society because there is a reason why you have been given what you have. And it is not for you. It's to share. And so it is really your duty to make sure that you do that.
That's amazing. And so it's really interesting to see that from a young age, you wanted to be an entrepreneur, and here you are doing that for like so long. How many years? 15 years? Other 5 years you worked?
No, I would say 10 years. 10 years of an entrepreneur's journey, yeah.
That's amazing. And whatever you were speaking about, the foundation, the roots, the family, everything is there in your firm as well when you take decision or solve a problem or come up with a vision or mission and things like that.
Yeah.
So is there anything that your father or your grandfather taught you and you're still continuing it as a legacy in AARNA Law?
I think lots of things that you just imbibe as a person, right? When you hang out with your family. I think work ethic. My grandfather, I think I learned work ethic from him. He worked crazy hours, in the sense very regimented. Like 9 a.m. he would be in office. 8:30 he'd be down at the breakfast table having breakfast. Like literally you could time your watch to him coming back home. And work-life balance, he always made time for family. And I think he is my role model today. And like we just celebrated his 100th birth centenary last year.
Wow.
And I think the kind of respect that was, accorded to him even 25 years after his passing was amazing. And I think that really, for me, was an exemplary legacy that he's left behind, right? So it's something to live up to and something to strive for. To say, how can you, even so many years after you're gone, people still remember you for what you stood for, right?
Amazing.
How does one then lead such a life? Yeah.
It's amazing. I mean, after so many years also people remember, come and, talk about it. That's something that is so much better than the, short-term successes and gains that people strive behind.
So we really have to ask, what is the kind of legacy you want to leave behind? How do you want people to remember you? Because things will come and go. The only thing that people will remember you for is you.
That's true.
Yeah.
So,
and how you make them feel at this point when you're sitting with them or interacting with anybody. So I think that should be the focus on a daily basis.
And that's something that you're doing for AARNA Law and for people who work with you.
Yeah, I mean, constantly strive. I'm not perfect. I have a lot of imperfections and I'm the first one to accept it, right? I have a lot of imperfections. But I think, firstly, self-awareness and striving to say, listen, I want to be a better version of myself every day has helped me in this journey, 100%.
That's
right, because a leader's journey is very lonely.
Yeah.
So you've got to have these magical skills that people think will come to you, I don't know how, right?
Learning and observing people.
Yeah, but it takes also a lot of cultivation.
That's true.
Right? And also a lot of intention.
Right?
And make sure that you continue to be very conscious and self-aware of who you are as a leader and what your shortcomings are, and work on your shortcomings and understand your strengths and build on your strengths.
Absolutely. And finally, To all the lawyers, like the new ones or the ones that have been working for like 20 years, what is it that you would want to say them to be more aware of, and as a lesson that you have learned that you want to pass it on to them?
Okay, guys, there's no shortcut to hard work, right? If you've chosen the law as a journey, then it is long hours, a lot of hard work, and white hair. People will not come to you unless you have the years of experience. So you will not, they have these crazy ideas in their head that to say, in 3 years' time, I'm going to be partner of a firm. It's not going to happen. The first 10 years, you're just learning the rope. The second 10 years, you're actually making a difference. And I think it's a journey. So enjoy the journey rather than focusing on, at this year, I want to do so much. At this year, I want to do so much. At this year, I want to do so much. No, it's not like that.
And what about your counterparts, your 20-year experience people? What is it that you want to tell them?
Again, enjoy the journey. I think everybody's forgetting about the journey.
True.
It's an everyday process, Vandana. It's not about that bullseye. This is where I want to go. This is what I want to achieve. Because when you achieve that, then what is your next goal?
Correct.
Right. I know of entrepreneurs who achieved whatever their financial target is. Their company bought, sold everything by 40. And then they're lost because there's no purpose. They spent all their life, right, every minute of every second building that business. They've not had any friendships, any family relationships. They've not cultivated any extracurricular activities. It's just work, 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 work. So suddenly when they're like 40, 45, they're like you said, what is the purpose of my existence? Right? So it's got to be about the journey. It can't be about, that target.
And succession planning. After you achieve the goal, what you need to do. That's also very, very important to
But
plan.
I'm telling you, people have completely lost it. So I know a few people they're really struggling to say, I've achieved everything that I want to achieve in life. Got all the name, the fame, the success, the money. And now what? What is the purpose of my life? And how do I find purpose? So I think for me, it's very important to first have the purpose, enjoy the journey, and the goals will happen when they're meant to.
That's true.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Kamala, for taking time off from such a busy schedule and giving us these insights and learnings, which all of us will treasure and implement it in our day-to-day lives as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, thanks.